You are listening to the iBuyer Experiment on the best day ever because we have Levi Lascsak in the house.
Oh, Levi.
Yeah.
Welcome, Levi.
What's up?
Oh my goodness,
Thank
you
you.
guys. This guy is legit. He is the creator of the Living in Dallas YouTube channel. All right, they started in December of 2020, so it's not even been a full year. They have over 353,000 views.
Boom.
Over 40,000 watch hours, over 4,400 subscribers, and hey, most importantly, they can source $25 million in real estate business directly to their channel. Welcome, Levi.
What's up, Levi?
That's insane, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
talk
amazing.
about return on investment right there.
Wow.
Absolutely.
9 months of hard work and $25 million in production. Sign me
Beautiful,
up, bro.
beautiful.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
So, Levi, just that's incredible. Quite the list. I'm so happy you're here today. I did a little recon. I went onto YouTube and I searched just living in Dallas, not even looking for your channel. And you were the second video that came up. And your video, the way you crafted your message, everything just sucked me in. I mean, you were answering the questions that people are thinking in the back of their heads. And I'm like, dude, you're really smart and you're onto something. I want you just to share with us what inspired you to double down on YouTube.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's an honor. So it was, and great to meet you all in person actually as well. So
Yes.
that was an amazing opportunity. So it was one of those things where going into 2021, you know, the Q3, Q4 of 2020, I didn't want to dabble in all social media. You know, it was one of those things where I wanted to find a strategy that I could go all in on, but I wanted to attract business. The last thing I wanted to do is I didn't want to cold call. I didn't want to door knock. I didn't want to spend a ton of money on advertising. And I knew I could attract business through social media, but I wasn't really sure what would be the best platform to do that. Now, the normal noise was Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and, you know, just those types of platforms. Well, I did my research initially on those as well, because I'll be honest, I wasn't big on social media before, because I've always just been kind of an in-person, you know, meet and greet type of face-to-face type of person. But I knew, you know, going into it, I needed to change strategies. I wanted to attract the business. I wanted people calling me. And so I dug into Facebook, Instagram. Nothing really set right with me. So I do what I always do. When I want to learn something, I buy as many books as I possibly can on the subject. I read them as fast as possible. I watch as many YouTube videos as I can, as fast as possible. I just go all in. I don't really do anything else, you know, no recreational activities or anything. And I believe you can really hard learn a subject within 1 to 2 months at a very extremely fast pace. If you just submerge yourself, you know, read 3 to 5 books, watch a lot of YouTube videos, maybe even read some blogs. And so when I just came across a book, it's actually behind me by Benji Travis and Sean Cannell, one of the top selling YouTube books called YouTube Secrets, actually, which will be featured in now in their revision edition,
Awesome.
which is absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy. So, and the thing is that he talked about in there about answering questions on YouTube, you know, and he actually started out with a real estate channel 10 years ago. And it ended up leading to him getting a deal with Fannie Mae for their listings, and he ended up doing 100 transactions in a year because of his YouTube channel. And so, you know, that just kind of sparked the thought that I was like, okay, you can kind of attract this business. And so that just led me down one rabbit hole after another. I started looking at all types of real estate content on YouTube, about other real estate books or YouTube books. There are a couple of books actually on real estate and YouTube as well. They don't really go into a lot of depth, but it was enough for me to understand a concept and kind of say, okay, I think I have a good game plan of what I want to do. So then I started to learn YouTube and understand the platform. And that's what's really key as well is YouTube, I believe, is the most powerful platform out there, but it's also probably the most complicated to understand because there's so much on the back end analytics and SEO that you've got to learn. And so I took about 2 months, just dove in once I decided YouTube was it. and studied everything I possibly could for those, those 2 months. And then I put together a business plan, basically, which, the thing is if you treat YouTube like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. If you treat YouTube like a business, it'll pay you like a business. And so, put together a plan. Don't just go in. The people that struggle are the ones that go in and just kind of half-ass it the whole way, or they just dabble around, or they sit there and they don't understand, they're like, oh, everyone's posting about their cookies and their lunch. I don't understand how this works. Well, if you look at it from that standpoint, you'll never get there. And so I understood the back end, how to make it work. And then ultimately, you have the best opportunity to get your videos ranked if everything on the back end is done properly. And so that's what I really dug into, and then started to create that content. And I just didn't start putting out content. I put together a plan of content of my first 20 to 40 videos to make, and then ended up filming the first 10 to 15 first before I even published one. And that was just all kind of part of the strategy, because I think where most people get stuck is they get excited, they put out a video or two, then life happens, life happens, health happens, every real estate happens, right. Everything happens. They get caught up, they get stuck in the grind again. It's the hamster wheel, which, hey, if they're doing business or busy, that happens to a lot of us, but you have to be strategic about it. And so I had a month's worth of content ready to go before we even published the first video. And then from there, I've always been ahead on the content. I've always been out to where it doesn't matter what comes up. I mean, actually, this last 2 weeks, I caught COVID. And so, yeah, I didn't even, but I was scheduled out for almost 3 weeks on my content already. So it didn't matter, even though it kind of took me down, and I'm a very healthy person. It took me out for a good 3 or 4 days. And then another 3 or 4 days, I just wasn't in the mood, you could say, to do anything. And so, I still had that content publishing. It was already ready to go, and it was good to go. The other thing is I can go on vacation. I go on vacation, or I can go to Atlanta, like where I met you guys. I can go to a conference, and I'm not worried about lead generating, because YouTube is constantly lead generating for me. Yep. It is, the thing is that two things I think are really there. Actually, there's a lot of things powerful about YouTube, but to me, number one is that Warren Buffett says you'll never be rich unless you can make money in your sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And so I believe that with lead generation, you'll always have a job if you're stuck to lead generation, unless you learn how to lead generate in your sleep. And so otherwise, real estate is just a job. It's not a business, but it's a business if you have a constant lead generation platform that is going. And that's the thing, is that you saw in my presentation, we have 50, 60 people watching YouTube videos of ours at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. And so I don't know who's watching real estate videos at that time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ultimate scale.
But they are. So that's number one. But number two, it compounds your time. The eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. Well, YouTube to me is the only platform that compounds your time, because even if it takes you 2 hours to make a video, as soon as that video is watched 2 hours and 1 minute, you've made a net profit on your time, right? Yep. And so when you look at 40,000 watch hours on our channel, that is watch hours. So you can directly equate an hour to 24 hours in a day. So wow. 40,000 hours is almost 4.5 years. Is 4.5 years. So I have literally prospected 4.5 years in the last 8 months. That's awesome. And that's the way I look at it. We average almost 10 days in one day. We have enough watch hours that is almost equal to 10 days of prospecting. You tell me, is the real estate agent next door to me ever going to catch me whenever they're cold calling for 2 hours a day and my prospecting is generating 10 days a day? Right. So that to me is the most powerful aspect of it right there. And I don't know, does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I really love about your channel, right? And I mean, just like Kayla, kind of doing a little bit of background, and even when in Atlanta, is just how much personality that you guys have been able to pull off within your channel, right? Not only does it show that the mental property, that you're a foremost known authority in your particular area, and people want to work with you, but the whole goal is people will work with you when they know you, like you, trust you. And before that first phone call ever even happens, in that direct engagement, they feel like they know you, like you, trust you, because of that watching you 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. and you delivering the content. So again, I think it's brilliant, and just watching what you guys have done and in the short time that I've been aware of it I'm envious, man.
Levi, tell us how you get how you come up with your content.
Yeah,
that's what I'm curious
about.
Well, at first it's all research, because that's the great thing about YouTube is the second largest search engine behind Google. And of course, Google and YouTube will tell you what people are searching for. So you simply have to look for what people are searching for in Dallas, Texas. You could do the same thing if you owned a software company. I don't know if you know anybody that owns a software company, but if if you did, you would look for relevant topics that people are trying to get their questions answered about your particular software, and you would make content that is catered towards that. So ideally, what I look for is what's being searched the most first. And, that's the easiest way to start out your channel, because if you create a channel based on your own content or yourself, it's going to take a very long time for people to find you, because you're making that content about yourself. It's kind of what I call the difference between service-based or selfish-based content. And so if it's selfish based, that doesn't mean you're being, you're intentionally being selfish. It just means that, hey, you're trying to talk about yourself or your product. However, if people don't know you or know who you are, it's going to be very difficult for them to find them. But if you look for what they're searching for, and Google and YouTube tells you exactly what they're searching for, it's a no-brainer. Now, once you start to develop an audience and you start to understand your audience, then you can adjust your content accordingly. Now I know what type of videos I can make that are going to resonate with my audience. But in the beginning, I didn't make a single video I wanted to make. I made all my videos based on search results. And that is an evergreen strategy as well. You'll always turn over new clients, because there's always going to be somebody new searching for that content. And see, the thing is that also, I believe that your audience, a lot of my audience is not my audience until they become my audience, which means there's a lot of recommendation and built into YouTube, right? So YouTube's whole goal is to predict what videos the viewer will watch the most. Well, if I've got somebody in California or Arizona that has no interest in Dallas real estate at all whatsoever, YouTube will never know to recommend them Dallas content. But the second that person gets a job transfer, or they get approved to work remotely, and they're tired of high taxes or lockdowns or whatever it is they want to get out of their state for, as soon as they start thinking Texas, they're going to search Dallas. And just like you said, what you found, most of my videos will pop up at least 3 out of the top 5 searches. And most people make their decision based within the top 5 videos that show up in YouTube. You search any suburb in Dallas, and we pretty much own 2 to 3, awesome, sometimes 4 of those top slots. So we automatically look like the authority.
Now, did you focus all the efforts on YouTube on that, or did you go snag any specific URLs to help with the way that works between Google and YouTube, things like that? Did you think down the road or think any moves that way?
Tags, right? You have all the tags on the YouTube. Yep.
Yeah. So I created what I like to call the SEO loop. And so for those that don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. And so we have Living in Dallas, Texas is the channel. Then I have livingindallastx.com, which is our WordPress blog site. So of course, everything we backlink on a separate blog and then embed our YouTube videos on there. And then I name our Google My Business page is Living in Dallas, Texas. And we averaged this last month, we averaged 7,000 searches. We were found 7,000 times just on our Google My Business page, because people are searching Living in Dallas, Texas. Nobody's searching Levi Lascsak, real estate agent in Dallas, Texas. Nobody's searching that, but they're searching what's it like to live in Dallas, Texas. Right. And our Google My Business page pops up there, #1. And then we also link that on the back end of Pinterest, which Pinterest is a search engine as well. We get over 1,500 views per month just on our Pinterest page, and that links to the blog site. The blog site ultimately directs back to YouTube. Google My Business directs back to YouTube. I mean, YouTube is the end goal. That's where we want people to ultimately go, because they'll consume video, but otherwise everything's kind of back channeled that way. And then that's all search engine related. And so it all communicates to each other as well. So I believe that's another reason why we just, show up anywhere whenever you search Dallas, Texas.
Very cool. Excellent strategy. I mean, I get so excited about this. I think that well, here's the thing. And I think you mentioned this when we were in Atlanta, and Elliot and I had the privilege of listening to you speak.
Yep.
And you gave an awesome presentation. And
Yep.
I remember going, okay, this guy is legit.
Yeah.
He's smart. He knows what he's doing. You have the results. I think that a lot of real estate agents set out to start a YouTube channel, or they set out to make content. And I love Jason's question, and your answer was amazing. You have to make the content that the viewer will watch, not the content that you want to make, right? And so that was a key takeaway for me. And then obviously you're using, I would imagine, TubeBuddy, I think is what you said you used to kind of research. Right. So you're kind of reverse engineering what that person is going to watch, and then you're making your content accordingly. And you're batch creating content, or was that just initially? Because you said when you first started, you recorded like 20 videos initially, and then you released them slowly. But as you've gone on, do you still batch create your content?
Yeah, to a certain extent. So if I go out and about, I do different types of videos. Either I'm out in the neighborhood or I do it from my office. As the kind of the two main ones. So if I go out in a neighborhood, Frisco's the most popular suburb in the Dallas area, and it's about 25 minutes from myself. So if I go out there, I'm going to try to make two or three videos while am I coming through okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll make 2 or 3 videos while I'm out there, just to save myself travel time if I'm actually going to be in the field, so to speak, And so same thing with when you're in your office. If I have 2 or 3 topics for my office videos, I've recorded 3 to 5 videos in one day in my office, just because, once you get in the groove, it's easy to stay in the groove. And so, if you knock out one, you can knock out another one, and usually another one. And plus, I tend to just block Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons. And because Tuesday afternoons just doesn't seem like there's usually a lot going on at that time, but at the same time, I guess not, because I block it. So therefore, nobody can schedule anything on Tuesday afternoons anyway. So that's just, I felt was a good downtime to block that time. And it's just like anything else. If you give it priority and you make time for it, then you'll have time to do it. And if you can record 2 or 3 videos, that's going to give you 1 or 2, or, just depending on how much you publish. If you publish once a week, you record 3 videos, you're good for 3 weeks, right? So it just depends on what your schedule is. You got to pick a schedule that's good for you and is going to work, that you can commit to and stick to. And then, adjust your timing now. Like I stay 2 to 3 weeks out on my filming. So my editor always has something to work on, and I know that I'm good to go. And so I'm not worried about, I'm actually going to Seattle this weekend, and I'm actually meeting with Benji, and I'll be on his channel for an interview, which is a big deal. Their channel has over 700,000 subscribers just on that YouTube channel that we're interviewing on. Yeah. And so, and I'll go there and I'll be relaxed. I'll be cool. I'll have a good time because I'm not worried about creating content. I'm not worried about lead generation. Actually, when I had COVID, I think we had more leads come in that week whenever I was out. And so it is just funny how that works. And so that's the thing you don't have to worry about.
So you touched on editing there. Now, I know you have like an editor that you send it out to, but I have a two-part question for you. So editing is one piece, right? Because you obviously want to create good, capturing, entertaining content, which editing does wonders for that. So if you could speak to that. Yep. And the second part of the question is, how do you like the camera angles, right? Because I see that you have a lot of angles that you capture, right? That you can't edit your angles. And so speak to those things. How did you learn that? How did you adopt that? And what recommendations can you make?
Well, I think editing, number one, is I'm a salesperson. I'm an agent. I'm a marketer, you could say. But one thing I'm not is an editor. And so I knew from the get-go that was not something I was willing to, number one, spend my time on. I wasn't interested in it, number one. And if you're not interested in something, you're not going to be good at it. Number two, it's kind of like Gary Vee says, you're not lazy, you're just not interested in what it is you're doing. So, which I thought is very powerful. Yeah, because if you're interested in something, you'll work on it, and you'll work on it for 18 hours a day, right? But I just knew, number one, I'm not interested in editing. Number two, it would take me 10 hours what it would take an editor half an hour to do. And so number three, and it's just not the best use of my time. And so from the very beginning, that was the only expense that I had, you know, to start the YouTube channel. But very quickly, we actually have a mortgage team that pays for our editing now. And so that's actually a zero cost, because now we refer them so much business, right? They're happy to pay for that expense. So that's something you can do, you know, to zero out that cost, or talk to a title company, or, you know, any type of partnership there. So camera angles, I mean, if I'm in the field, that's something I know that in film, it's called pattern interrupts, you know, it's called jump cuts, those types of things, anything that can keep the viewer's attention. They say that's anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. I think sometimes that seems a little excessive, but if I'm out in the field, you know, I'm holding a camera on a little stick. And so sometimes just switching that from hand to hand gives it, I've actually had people comment, they're like, quit, you're making me too dizzy, you know, because I switch back and forth. But I do that on purpose sometimes, not just because my hand gets tired, but because I'm actually switching up angles from that standpoint. It's very simple to do that. In the office, I really only use one camera. So if that comes into the editing, that, you know, the editor can like zoom in on angles, like zoom in 2 or 3 times, or you can jump cut. Like you can even edit out. Sometimes I'll say, edit out my swallows, you know, if I sit there and go, you know, and just that little that's like a split second, but it gives a little bit of a cut. And if you haven't noticed this before, you'll probably notice it now. If you've ever watched a talking head video, and you just see little cuts, but it looks like somebody's still, clearly they didn't mess up, right? Because the conversation is still very continuous, but there's like little cuts. That usually happens every 3 to 5 seconds, because they're doing a pattern interrupt, or they might be editing out swallows, or, you know, just things like that, just to keep the viewer's attention. But we also tend to use B-roll, which is, you know, I'm always talking about the community or a house or something like that. So anything we can add in just as an overlay, then that's a pattern interrupt as well.
Yeah, and just like rip the audio and have voiceover on that B-roll. Love it. Very cool.
Very cool. Oh my goodness. So much value being served up. And you know, here's the thing. If you are listening or watching and you are thinking, I want to go all in on YouTube like Levi did. Levi, I think that you have a course that you can like just share with us. What do you have for us if we're wanting to kind of go deeper with
course?
you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody wants to go to The Real Agents, and that's REEL, like a movie reel, go to therealagents.com. You know, we have a 20-minute, it's just a 20-minute video sales letter. And, you know, it's just, we kind of walk you through how the origin story, and just actually when we filmed that, the call to action was $100,000 in 100 days, because that's what we did in the first 100 days of the channel. So actually, I can't wait. We're going to refilm that at the end of the year, and I can't imagine what the numbers will be at that time. But if you go to therealagents.com, and that's REEL, then, you know, it's 20-minute overview, and there's an option to schedule a call. And so that's it. You know, I'm not here to sell anything to anybody. We always have give you the option to schedule a call, because we want to talk to agents about improving their business first and seeing if we're even a good fit. You know, I'm not saying we're the end all be all for everybody. And the thing is that YouTube may not be the answer for everybody either. But, you know, we've got other things that we can help implement. It just depends. You know, ultimately we just want to have a discussion and see if we can help someone improve their business first. And then we get into, you know, does that look like a partner opportunity? Does it look like, you know, just a course purchase? Is it some coaching involved? It just really depends. So we're not a one size fits all. It's ultimately, you know, we want to make sure we can help somebody first before we get into all the other stuff.
I love what you said there, just because, again, I know we're going to probably have to have you back on, and we can even dive into more on this stuff, but with so much disruption. It's more important than ever that agents get into relationship, right? Keep the transaction, the emotion invigorated, and not make it so transactional, especially with all this disruption that's going on. And getting people to know you, like you, trust you, it's key.
YouTube is
Yes.
it right there, right?
It is. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one thing that has resonated with me the most of this whole conversation, and there's just so much good stuff, is the fast track learning. That is such great advice for somebody who just wants to go all in on something, read several books, watch a bunch of cool video content around it, and within a couple months, you could darn near come across as a full-on expert. And that resonated with me big time. So I think that's wonderful advice. And anybody looking to go, more deep into anything, that's the way to do it.
That'd be us. I'm going to be doing that. I might need your coaching.
Yeah.
Well, Levi.
not only am I a fan, I'm a client.
I think we are sold for sure. Definitely, you're doing such cool things. I just want to say again, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate you. And all y'all go out there and find Levi. Go to his YouTube channel, Living in Dallas. And then what was that web address one more time?
It's therealagents.com, and that's REEL, like a movie reel.
There you go.
Therealagents.com.
Awesome.
Loved having you on, Levi. We will have to have you back again. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Levi.
thank you guys. So good to see you again.